Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here for Western Mass News at 10 on Fox 6. I'm Jordyn Jagolinzer. The Massachusetts Gaming Commission announcing preliminary guidelines and a projected date for reopening casinos across the state. While MGM Springfield has not been given a definite date, the commission is focused on June 29th, potentially the first day of Phase 3 of the state's reopening plan. Western Mass News reporter Purvis is live outside of MGM with the details. Leon?
Jordyn, the Gaming Commission met today to talk about the potential precautions to put in place so people are safe when they return to casinos in the Bay State. One of the concerns of reopening aimed at the pandemic addressing during Thursday's meeting is casinos' guests complying with precautions.
Reopening to unusual circumstances, and our hope is trying to minimize any patron disruption or events on the floor, and a lot of that is going to be around the adherence of the patrons to these guidelines as well.
Another thing is traffic flow, people coming and going as they please.
For MGM, we'll be using a layout. We would use the same area, but we'd separate the flow of enter and exit, but it's one main area.
When it comes to food at the casino, MGM Springfield does have a designated eating place in mind.
We would have our South End Food Market as the designated eating area. That would be the sole area for food consumption.
If wearing a mask inside MGM Springfield becomes a requirement, which is a possibility based on the Gaming Commission's preliminary guidelines, one of the biggest issues could be monitoring people who are drinking and walking around without a mask on.
We see an enforcement challenge where if you see someone not wearing a mask, you approach them, they say, well, I'm just sipping my drink, I'll put it back on in a minute, and you have all these negative and challenging interactions with patrons if there's a really strict requirement versus highly encouraged.
The Gaming Commission presented 3 potential options for reopening guidelines on Thursday, but everything could change pending on state guidance.
The governor's advisory board may come out with some industry-specific guidelines, which we would lay on top of any guidelines that we have.
Now, the Gaming Commission is projecting that casinos will be ready to open at the end of June, but that depends if the number of coronavirus cases continue to go down. Live in Springfield, Purvis, Western Mass News.